Hello, and welcome back to Tangents on Cracked Spines with your host, Frankie. With occasional interruptions from both cats and my mother. Who just meowed. She made me lose my train of thought. Oh, so yeah, welcome back. If Wi-Fi allows, this will be the second episode in the week. Yay. If you are new, I welcome you, but go back to about 6 episodes, start the story from the beginning. Everybody else, welcome back, settle up, buckle up. As always, the content is not appropriate for all audiences. I may read things from the public domain, but I think that makes them less appropriate for all ages because of, violence and such. I think I'm getting better about my own profanity, so yay. As the title suggests, I go on tangents while reading the books. Because that's what we're here for. Tangents on Cracked Spines. We are reading books aloud and going down rabbit holes as my brain allows. So yeah, we are currently reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. Frankenstein was the first story we read. Too bad I didn't have this particular book because it's annotated. Because whoever had this book before me marked it all up with their thoughts, and that would have spurred all the more tangents. Anywho's, Bram Stoker's Dracula, back into the fray. We left off where Jonathan was like, must kill the demon. Demon scared me. Run away. Let's see if I can, scale down the wall of Castle Dracula with my pants full of stolen gold and not knowing where my passport or papers are. Then we moved on to letters between his fiancée, Mina Murray, she's not Harker yet, and Lucy's, hi, Maneki, and Lucy, whose last name I can't remember. Anyways, from there, yeah, Mina was just like, we need to talk more, and Lucy was like, yes, you're very right. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that I got proposed to thrice today? I broke 2 hearts. Oh, I feel so terrible. I'm such a flirt. And that's where we begin again. And we will not be with Mina or Lucy. Instead, we begin with Dr. Seward's diary kept in phonograph. 25th May. Ebb tide and appetite today. Cannot eat, cannot rest, so diary instead. Since my rebuff of yesterday, I have a sort of empty feeling. Nothing in the world seems of sufficient importance to be worth the doing. As I knew that the only cure for this sort of thing was work, I went down amongst the patients. I picked out one who has afforded me a study of much interest. He is so quaint that I am determined to understand him as well as I can. Today I seem to get nearer than ever before to the heart of his mystery. I questioned him more fully than I had ever done, with a view of making myself master of the facts of his hallucination. In my manner of doing it there was, I now see, something of cruelty. I seemed to wish to keep him to the point of his madness, a thing which I avoid with the patients as I would the mouth of hell. Memo. Under what circumstances would I not avoid the pit of hell? Omnia romne vanilia sunt. I don't know Latin, so if that was terrible, sorry, correct me in the comments. Hell has its price. Verb, sap. If there be anything behind this instinct, it will be valuable to trace it afterwards, accurately, so I had better commence to do so, therefore. R.M. Renfield. Etat 59. Sanguine temperament, great physical strength, morbidly excitable. I think that describes all of you. Periods of gloom, ending in some fixed idea which I cannot make out. I presume that the sanguine temperament itself and the disturbing influence end in a mentally accomplished finish. A possibly dangerous man. Probably dangerous if unselfish. In selfish men, caution is as secure an armor for their foes as for themselves. What I think of on this point is, when self is the fixed point and centripetal force is balanced with the centrifugal. When duty, a cause, etc. is the fixed point, the latter force is paramount, and only accident or a series of accidents can balance it. Letter from Quincy P. Morris to the Honorable Arthur Holmwood, 25th May. My dear Art, we've told yarns by the campfire in the prairies and dressed one another's wounds after trying a landing at the Marquise, and drunk healths on the shore of Titicaca? Okay. There are more yarns to be told, and other wounds to be healed, and another health to be drunk. Won't you let this be at my campfire tomorrow night? I have no hesitation in asking you, as I know a certain lady is engaged to a certain dinner party, and that you are free. There will only be one other, our old pal at the Korea, Jack Seward. He's coming too, and we both want to mingle our weeps over the wine cup and to drink a health with all our hearts to the happiest man in all the wide world, who has won the noblest heart that God has made and the best worth winning. We promise you a hearty welcome and a loving greeting, and a health as true as your own right hand. We shall both swear to leave you at home if you drink too deep to a certain pair of eyes. Come. Yours as ever and always, Quincy P. Morris. Telegram from Arthur Holmwood to Quincy P. Morris, 26th May. Count me in every time. I bear messages which will make both your ears tingle. Chapter 6. Mina Murray's Journal. 24th July Whitby. Lucy met me at the station looking sweeter and lovelier than ever, and we drove up to the house at the Crescent in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The little river, the Esk, runs through a deep valley, and I've made her Southern. Let's see if I can fix that. This is why editing exists, and also why I don't use it. Bye, Neki. Which broadens out as it comes near the harbor. A great viaduct runs across, with high piers, through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, and it is so steep that when you are on the high land, on either side you look right across it, unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the old town, the side away from us, are all red-roofed and seem piled up one over the other anyhow, like the pictures we see of Nuremberg. See, I can't think of Nuremberg without thinking, World War II. And I know that it didn't always have that connotation, but it's still one of those, Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of Marmion. Marmion? Where the girl was built up in the wall. Sounds like Edgar Allan Poe to me. It is a most noble ruin of immense size and of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town there is another church, the parish one, round which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. Should it be filled with something else? Hopefully you wouldn't see the bodies. This is, to my mind, the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town and has a full view of the harbour, and all up the bay to where the headland called Kettleness stretches out into the sea. Are we sure this wasn't written by Shelley? My favorite spot in this town was the cemetery. Sorry, graveyard. It was on church property. But it's such a beautiful scene if I ignore the fact that I'm surrounded by graves. I say that as though I have not always been surrounded by graveyards of some form or another in my housing. Bum, 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 bum. It descends so steeply over the harbor that part of the bank has fallen away, and some of the graves have been destroyed. In one place, part of the stonework of the grave stretches out over the sandy pathway far below. There are walks with seats behind them through the churchyard, and people go and sit there all day long, looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come and sit here very often myself and work. Indeed, I am writing now with my book on my knee and listening to the talk of 3 old men who are sitting beside me. And I do also realize that I give them quite the falsetto, but that's easier than dipping my voice for the men. So the men have closer to my normal timbre. They seem to do nothing all day but sit up here and talk. The harbor lies below me, with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with a curve outward at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy sea-wall runs along outside of it. On the near side, the sea-wall makes an elbow crooked inversely. Ow. And its end, too, has a lighthouse. Between the 2 piers there is a narrow opening into the harbor, which then suddenly widens. It is nice at high water, but when the tide is out it shoals away to nothing, and there is merely the stream of the Esk, running between banks of sand, with streams here and there, with rocks here and there. Outside the harbor on this side there rises for about half a mile a great reef, the sharp edge of which runs straight out from behind the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with a bell. I don't know how to say that with a British accent. Buoy?
It is pronounced buoy here.
Well, yeah, I know it's pronounced buoy here. And in the South, it's a buoy. But with a British accent? No idea. Buoy, buoy, buoy. I read with a bookmark going all the way down, so I try to keep my place, and I've still lost it. Outside the harbor, rising sharp and buoy with a bell, there we go, which swings in bad weather and sends an amorphous sound on the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the old man about this. He is coming this way. He is a funny old man. He must be awfully old, for his face is all gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearly 100, and that he was a sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. how do you even keep track of your age at a certain point? Because, like, I'm 32 and I'm always like, wait, how old am I? Like, it literally just disappears at a certain age. It doesn't matter anymore. You've hit the milestones for your young life, and then you eventually hit a half century. He is, I am afraid, a very skeptical person, for when I asked him about the bells at sea and the White Lady at the Abbey, he said very brusquely, I wouldn't fash my... I wouldn't fash mazzle about them, miss. Them things be all wore out. Mind, I don't say that they never was, but I do say that they wasn't in my time. They be all very well for comers and trippers, and the like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them feet folks from York and Leeds that be always eatin' cured herrings and drinkin' tea and lookin' out to buy cheap jet would creed aught. I wonder, Mazel, who'd be bothered tellin' lies to them. Even the newspapers, which is full of fool talk. I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from, so I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the old days. He was just settling himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he labored to get up and said, I must gang Aegeanwards home now, miss. My granddaughter doesn't like to be kept waiting when the tea is ready, for it takes me time to crammel aboon the gearies, and there be a many of 'em, and miss, I lack belly timber sairly by the clock. I need a dictionary. He hobbled away, and I could see him hurrying, as well as he could, down the steps. The steps are a great feature of the place. They lead from the town up to the church. There are hundreds of them. I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must originally have had something to do with the Abbey. I shall go home too. Lucy went out visiting with her mother, as they were only duty calls. I did not go. They will be home by this. 1st August. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the 2 others who always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything, and downfaces everybody. If he can't argue them, then he bullies them, and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. We got a lot of those still nowadays. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she has been here. I noticed that the old men did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near her when we sat down. She is so sweet with old people. I think they all fall in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and he went off at once into a sort of sermon. I must try to remember it and put it down. It be all fool talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, and naught else. These bands and waifs and boo-ghosts and barghosts and bogles and all anent them is only fit to set barons and dizzy women a-belterin'. They be naught but airblibs. They and all gyms and signs and warnings be... Thank you. Be all invented by parsons and ilsome buke bodies and railway touters to skeer and scanner haffins and to get folks to do something they don't other inclined to. It makes me fret to think of 'em. Why, it's them that, not content with printin' lies on paper and preachin' them out of pulpits, does not want to be cutting them on the tombstones. Look in here all around you and whate'er ye will. All them steens holding up their heads as well as they can out of their pride. It's a cant simply to tumbling down with the weight of the lies wrote in 'em. Here lies the body, or sacred to the memory, wrote in all of 'em. And yet in nigh half of them there bean't no bodies at all, and the memories of 'em bean't cared a pinch of snuff about, much less sacred. Lies, all of 'em. Nothing but lies of one kind or another. My gog, it'll be a square scouterment at the day of judgment when they come tumbling up and their death sarks all drooped together and trying to drag their tombstones with them to prove how good they was. Some of them trembling and dithering with their hands that dozened and slippery from lying in the sea, and they can't even keep their grip of them. Are you having fun? Sorry, cat. I could see from the old fellow's self-satisfied air and the way in which he looked round for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off. So I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are not all wrong. Yablins! There may be a poorish few not wrong, savin' where they make out the people too good, for there be folk that do think a bomb bowl be like the sea, if only it be their own. The whole thing be only lies. Now, look you here. You come here a stranger, and you see this Kirkgarth. I nodded, for I thought it better to assent, though I did not quite understand his dialect. Neither do I. I knew it had something to do with the church. Oh, wait. Kirkgarth. That's almost German. Kirch, because Kirchger is German for church, something like that. He went on, and you consent to all these steens of boon folk that be happened here, snod and snog. I assented again. Then that be just where the lie comes in. Why, there be scores of these lay beds that be tomb as old Dunn's box on Friday night. He nudged one of his companions, and they all laughed. And my gog, how could they be otherwise? Look at that one. The affist abaft the beer bark. Read it. I went over and read. Edward Spenslig, master mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April 1854, AT 30. I'm assuming that's something about age. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on. Who brought him home, I wonder, to hap him here? Murdered off the coast of Andres. And you conceded his body lay under? Why, I could name you a dozen whose bones lie in the Greenland seas above. He pointed northwards, or where the currents may have drifted them. There be the steens round you. You can, with your young eyes, read the small print of the lies from here. This Braithwaite Laurie, I knew his father, lost in the Lively off Greenland in 20, or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same seas in 1777, or John Paxton, drowned off Cape Farewell a year later, or old John Rawlings. They need to learn how to swim. I know that's not the point. There's lots of reasons to be taken by the sea. Rawlins, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. Do you think that all these men will have to make a rush to Whitby when the trumpet sounds? I have me anthems about it. I tell you that when they got here, they'd be jostling one another that way and that. It'd be a fight up on the ice in the old days, when we'd be at one another from daylight to dark and trying to tie up our cuts by the light of the aurora borealis. I know I should probably be making him sound more like Irish, Scottish, but Ain't got it in me today.
Oh, goodness.
I have a hard time making the way he talks sound British. When I try to put the accent on the vowels I think they should have, he sounds Southern.
Mm-hmm.
So... Dun, 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 dun. This was evidently local pleasantry, for the old man cackled over it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. But, I said, surely you are not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the poor people or their spirits will have to take their tombstones with them on the Day of Judgment. Do you think that will be really necessary? Well, what else be they tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please the relatives, I suppose. To please their relatives, you suppose. This he said with intense scorn. How will it pleasure their relatives to know that lies is wrote over them, and that everybody in the place knows that they be lies? He pointed to a stone at our feet, which had been laid down as a slab, on which the seat was rested, close to the edge of the cliff. Read the lies on that thrusting, he said. There we go, that's a better accent than Southern. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy was more opposite to them, so she leant over and read, Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in the hope of a glorious resurrection on July 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks at Kettleness. This tomb was erected by his sorrowing mother to her dearly beloved son. Dearly beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Swales, I don't see anything very funny in that. She spoke her comment very gravely and somewhat severely. You don't see aught funny? Ha! But that's because you don't go home the sorrowing mother was a hellcat that hated him because he was a crooked, a regular lamiter he was, and he hated her so that he committed suicide in order that she mightn't get an insurance she put on his life. He blew nigh the top of his head off with an old musket that they had for scaring the crows with. Thwarn't for crows then, for it brought the clegs and the doups to him. That's the way he fell off the rocks. And as to hopes for a glorious resurrection, I've oft heard him say mazel that he hoped he'd go to hell, for his mother was so pious that she'd be sure to go to heaven, and he didn't want to addle her where she was. Now, ain't that Steen at any rate? He hammered it with his stick as he spoke. Pack of lies! And won't it make Gabriel keckle with Gordy when Geordie comes petting up the grease with the tombstone balanced on his hump, and asks it to be took as evidence? My nose itches. I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation as she said, rising up, Oh, and why did you tell us of this? It is my favorite seat, and I cannot leave it now, and now I must go on sitting over the grave of a suicide. That won't harm ye, my pretty, and it may make poor Geordie gladsome to have so trim a lass sitting on his lap. That won't hurt ye. Why, I've sat here off and on for nigh 20 years past, and it hadn't done me no harm. I cannot keep an accent tonight. I am very sorry. Don't you fash about them as lies under ye, or that doesn't lie there either. It'll be time for ye to be getting scart when you see the tombstones all run away with, and the place as bare as a stubble field. There's the clock, and I must be going. My service to ye, ladies. And off he hobbled. Lucy and I sat a while, and it was all so beautiful before us that we took hands as we sat, and she told me all over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. That made me just a little heartsick, for I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. Same day. I came up here alone, for I am very sad. There was no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock has just struck 9. I see the lights scattered all over the town, sometimes in rows where the streets are, and sometimes singly. They run right up the Esk and die away in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of roof of the old house next to the abbey. The sheep and lambs are bleating in the fields away behind me, and there is a clatter of a donkey's hooves up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time, and further along the quay there is a Salvation Army meeting in a back street. How frickin' old is the Salvation Army? Neither of the bands hears the other, but up here I hear and see them both. I wonder where Jonathan is, and if he is thinking of me. I wish he were here. And with that, it's been half an hour that I've talked your ear off, and so we will end it before going back to Dr. Seward next time. I apologize for my terrible, terrible accents today and the lack of actual tangents. They were more just thoughts thrown in. So yeah, thank you for bearing with me and my cat and my pauses and everything. I hope you enjoyed it. Any ways to improve or what you like, commentary, put it down below. Or reach out to me. All of that information will be in the not in the comments, in the description. I don't know where my brain is today. I apologize. And yeah, like every other podcast, like, subscribe, review, comment, share with people. It all helps this get out to other people so they can also laugh at my silliness. Thank you again, and good night.